What's the scariest thing that's ever woken you up during the middle of the night? Once I woke up because I heard music playing from the kitchen and I thought maybe mum forgot to turn the radio off. I went through the dark hallway to the kitchen to turn the radio off, but when I was standing in the dark kitchen there was no music playing. Everything was as quiet as always at 3 AM. I had a large camel spider run over my face at about 3 AM. That was not a pleasant sensation. The extremely realistic feeling of a bare hand grabbing my foot, which made me wake up instantly only to realize it was somehow a dream. A poster falling down from the wall. I'm pretty sure my neighbors heard my scream. The night I watched the movie The Conjuring. I woke up to my bed shaking and all the clothes hanging in my closet rattling like crazy. Took me quite some time to realize it was an earthquake and not the devil come visiting. When I was in my final year at high school, I had trouble sleeping at night with my final exams approaching. I think I dozed off for a bit and suddenly woke up to see a person's face staring in through my window grill. I was in such a panic I literally couldn't move or scream. Luckily he saw me wake up and escaped. When I was a kid, we went camping in the woods. I heard what I thought was a bear outside our pop-up camper and it woke me up. Me and my two brothers were sleeping on one side, with me in the middle, and our parents were sleeping on the other side. It was completely dark so I couldn't see a thing. But I could hear what I thought was a bear snorting around outside. I was scared to death. I couldn't figure out a way to climb over my brothers and cross to the other side to wake up my father, without making noise and alerting the bear to the tasty meal waiting inside. So I just lied there perfectly still for the whole night, waiting for giant claws to rip their way through the canvas. As the sun came up and I started to see, I noticed that the lump that was my father in a sleeping bag was rising and falling with the bear snorting. Turns out my dad's snoring had kept me up all night in absolute fear. My cat howling at another cat through a screen in the door sounded like a demon. My sister had an all-white clown doll that hung from the ceiling on a little swing. In the summertime, we slept with our doors and windows open to get the cool air in. When I woke up one night hearing some tapping against her window down the hall, if I sat up in bed and looked down the hall, and I could see into the front of her bedroom. So I did. And I see this freaking clown swinging back and forth against her window, backlit by the street lamp, but clearly staring directly into my soul like it was all it desired in this world. I didn't sleep well that summer. I heard someone quietly trying my front doorknob late at night. I wasn't quite asleep yet. I checked with my roommate later, and it wasn't them. It happened once or twice more, but I never got to the door quickly enough to see who it was through the peephole. Nothing ever came of it, and I live somewhere else now. My dog barking because cops were banging on the doors and windows of our Airbnb, flashing their lights into each and every room. Called 911 and she told us to not answer the door because she doesn't see cops in our area. Yup. When I was 18 I'd broken my leg, and it was non-weight bearing so I was sleeping on the sofa downstairs. Woke up to a guy climbing in the window directly over my head. I'd obviously left the window open a crack and he'd seen an opportunity. To be honest, as scared as I was, I'm fairly sure I scared the poop out of him too as he screamed and ran away after I hit him with my crutch. I was drifting off and was already dreaming, but it seemed I was still awake because I was dreaming of myself in bed in my room. But in my dream I was awake. I dreamt some people or person swung through the bedroom door and ran towards me and in an instant and hit me with all their might with some heavy object. I shook awake. It was a similar feeling when you may startle yourself awake because it seems like you're falling. It took a moment for my brain to tell me I was alone, and it was just a dream. It was so strange, exhilarating, scary. Never had a dream like it since. It turned out to be funny. Someone was trying loudly to break into a car just outside my ground floor bedroom window that faced a large parking lot in an apartment complex. He was trying to smash the windows and wasn't strong enough, and was yelling a lot. I called the police. I heard every word they said when they showed up. It turned out that he was trying to break into his own car because he was too drunk to find his own keys in his own pocket. I woke up with chunks of teeth in my mouth and severe abdominal pain. Probably swallowed some tooth. Then I looked across the room and there was a pool of blood on the opposite side of the room. After quickly spitting out the rest of the teeth bits, I went to the bathroom and was shocked to see my entire face was bleeding. But from a deep cut in my chin and not from my missing tooth. I realized that I had sleepwalked. Then decided to fall asleep while standing on the other side of the room and did a belly flop straight on the floor. And then somehow after all of that, got up again and walked back into bed and fell asleep for a few more hours. I had to get a new tooth from a student's doctor that I've never gotten fixed. I also ended super gluing my busted chin together because I couldn't afford stitches. I had an industrial size rat dying from rat poison come through a panel in my closet and up into bed with me at 2 AM. My dog decided to hop onto our piano and started walking along the keys in the middle of the night. The shadow of a person next to the bed. My first and last night terror. Sleeping over at a friend's house when I was about 9 years old on the top bunk and was woke up when pieces of the ceiling landed on me and warm furry things also landed all over me and were scurrying across my face, chest and limbs. I jerked up and saw mice skittering all over the place and pieces of the ceiling missing which were on the bunk where I had been sleeping. I got up and the noise woke up my friend's mom who came in, saw the mice running around the bed where I had been and screamed blue murder. Mice were continuing to periodically poke their heads out of the hole in the ceiling. The people who lived in the apartment above my friend had a mouse problem and the mice had an extensive nest in between the two apartments in the floor space after the landlord looked at the problem. My friend slept over at my house from then on. The worst was when the neighbor boy, 9yo, came banging on our door and ringing the doorbell at 1 AM. His mom and stepdad were fighting. Stepdad hit mom and had her on the ground with his hands around her neck trying to choke her. We've never had to call 911 before that night. This poor little boy had his 2yo sister in his arms with a completely dazed look on his face, while my mom was on the phone with 911. I sat the boy down and made sure to tell him that he was incredibly brave and no matter what anyone tells him, he did the right thing by coming here. Even sadder as they had just moved here from across the country that week and he knew no one. When my baby was first born I had to take anti-nausea medication. And that medication messed with my dreams. One night I slept on my arm so that it fell asleep beyond pins and needles all the way to numbness. I was sleeping on my stomach, with my arm pinned underneath me, my hand near my chest. In my dream, a marauding squirrel jumped on me. In my sleep, my body tried to fend off the squirrel with my then numb arm. Because my arm didn't feel like me, my brain confused the scrabbling movement of my sleeping arm with the attacking squirrel. I screamed bloody fricking murder and jumped like I had been bucked out of bed. My movements knocked over a frame that had been leaned against the nightstand, which fell against the baby's crib then down in front of the dog kennel. Within maybe 2 seconds we went from bucolic slumber to screaming wife, confused, yelling husband, crying baby and barking dog. It took us a while to get back to sleep. I woke up and heard someone walking outside my bedroom window. The window was open and there were leaves on the ground. I got up and put my back against the wall next to the window. I heard a very distinct human walking sound getting closer and closer. I was pooping my pants at this point. They were now very close and I could see out the window but I could not see them. I was pressed against the wall as the footsteps got closer and closer. Then the footsteps got quieter as the being got farther away. It took every nerve in my being to look out that window and nothing. I went outside and looked back there, baseball bat in hand, and saw a very large possum. No scary criminal. My parents visited my wife and I, and since we didn't have 2 bedrooms, we let them stay in our bedroom. But we have 2 cats and they can open the bedroom door if it isn't locked by key. We told them to remember to close it. Sometime at night I hear a scream followed by cat. Come to find out that my mom went to use the bathroom but forgot to lock the bedroom door afterwards, and my dad was greeted by my cat's face staring at his. Honestly, was probably scarier for my cat, who was expecting to see me instead. My first tornado. Woke and listened carefully and asked the wife, is that rain or wind? Just then both of our phones started beeping alerts and that put us in motion. In hindsight we reacted about a minute later than we should have. Got lucky and it contacted the ground about a mile past us. I don't know if it counts, but we were in the field in Camp Pendleton, CA, and sleeping in just our mummy bags under the stars, and I woke up in the night for whatever reason and my eyes focused on the next guy over in our circle who had one of the largest spiders I've ever seen in the wild sitting on his forehead. Maybe getting warm or something. Freaked me the frick out. I flicked it off of him and zipped my bag all the way up so there was just the breathing hole, and used my boonie cover to plug that and just breathed through the little vents. BF was out of town and I heard a voice in the middle of the night. My dogs woke up and barked too. Heard the voice again, sounded like a British woman. Grabbed the gun and started lurking the house like WTFFFFFFFFFF. Full stop. Full stop. It was my carbon monoxide detector that apparently talks to tell me the battery was low. But it scared the poop out of me for a few minutes. Tornado siren. In the Midwest they test them once a month and you get used to it. But holy hell, when it goes off at 3 AM your subconscious mind dumps adrenaline into you. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Like literally 29-year-old about to have my wife call an ambulance. On a camping trip with friends in a state park. In the middle of the night our tent is woken up by the sound of gunshots. It is illegal to go hunting in state parks, so we weren't sure if the shooter was hunting animals or just shooting a gun randomly into the woods. Gunshots grew louder over the next hour, so it seemed like the shooter was getting closer to our campsite. A state trooper helicopter started flying overhead with a spotlight trying to find the shooter. We eventually heard a bunch of cop cars up the hill from our campsite, and heard the state troopers get out and order the shooters to drop their weapons. And they brought the shooters into custody. The next morning we asked the people who ran our campsite what happened. The people who lived in the house up the hill had apparently done a lot of meth, then decided to use cars driving down the main road as target practice. There were RVs and trees in our campsite that had bullet holes in them. Luckily none of the bullets hit any campers, or caused any of the cars to go off the road, which would have sent them hurtling down a mountainside. My children. I love them more than anything. But they are some sneaky amorphous and they wake you up in a way so gentle that you don't realize it. Then you open your eyes and they are 3 inches from your face. Like, good morning daddy, it's 4 AM. Wouldn't change it for the world. My snake farted so loud and harshly that he knocked himself off a branch, and the poo stuck to the other side of the glass. The noise it made in the dark middle of the night was horrifying, all the time that my rat got out of his cage and decided to crawl onto my face for kisses. Back when I was in the military, went to bed after drinking, forgot to lock my door. Woke up to someone sitting in my chair watching TV, turns out he'd been drinking too and thought he was in his room. A shadow person from a sleep paralysis episode. My roommate screamed directly into my face at 1 AM. You best know I instinctively slapped that bastard. Probably my fairy lights turning on with the battery missing. A fox making the scariest frick noise foxes make. Literally thought that there was gonna be zombies outside. Was so scared I wouldn't even go check with my ex what the hell it was. A silhouette of a small child at the end of my bed that whispered my name in a demonic voice. It was my daughter. I don't care what people say. Kids are creepy AF in the dark. Feverish hallucination. Sickness isn't the fun type of hallucination. It's the I took too much Benadryl sort of hallucination. My wife and I were separated and I was sleeping in the basement apartment of our home. She woke me in the middle of the night to come upstairs. There in the kitchen was an intruder sitting calmly at the table. My wife left me alone with this person at 3 AM. I was shaking, scared that this person would snap and get violent. Turns out he was stoned out of his mind and my wife had forgotten to lock the front door. She had left to call the police. I found out later that she had found him in my son's room. There aren't many things scarier than finding a stranger in your house in the middle of the night.
Hi there. Look, if you enjoyed the video, well, why not go ahead and hit that like and subscribe to Reddit Stories. In fact, if you want to see even more responses to this thread, well then, take a look. There's the link in the description below. And remember, show some love to those authors while you're there. And I look forward to seeing you next time.